in the quiet town of Aberdeen, New South Wales, Australia. Few could have imagined that one of the most gruesome crimes in the country's history would occur behind the doors of a modest suburban home. It was 2000, and the town was about to become infamous for reasons no one would ever forget. Katherine Knight was born in 1955 and had a deeply troubled upbringing. Her mother, Barbara, had left her abusive husband for another man, Ken Knight, with whom she had 4 children, including Katherine. Ken was an alcoholic who regularly raped Barbara up to 10 times a day, and Katherine would later claim she had been sexually abused by several family members, not by her father, but by others. The claims were later supported by family members, though charges were never filed. Despite this harrowing background, Katherine managed to hold down a job, and she entered into several relationships throughout her life, most of them ending in violence. Katherine had a well-known history of aggression. She once fractured a partner's skull with a frying pan. Another time, she cut the throat of a man's dog in front of him as a threat. She worked in a slaughterhouse, where she quickly became known for her skill with knives. She developed an intense obsession with her job and took her own set of butchering knives home, hanging them over her bed, a habit she maintained for years. Then she met John Price. John Price was a well-liked, easygoing man, a father of 3, and a hard-working miner that he knew about Katherine's violent past, but figured he could handle her. For a while, things were okay. They moved in together in 1995, and though their relationship had its ups and downs, Price refused to marry her, which angered Katherine. The relationship began to deteriorate rapidly in early 2000. Katherine, enraged by his refusal to marry her, made a shocking move. She filmed items Price had allegedly stolen from work years earlier and sent the tape to his boss. Though the items were minor and decades old, Price was fired. Furious, he kicked her out of the house. A few months later, the two rekindled their relationship, though Price refused to let her move back in. It was a decision that would cost him his life. February 29, 2000. John Price told his co-workers and friends that if he didn't come to work the next day, it would be because Katherine had killed him. He even went so far as to update his will, explicitly stating that he feared for his life. That night, Katherine showed up at his house. The two argued, but eventually, she seduced him, and they had sex. Afterward, Price fell asleep. Katherine, however, had other plans to eye in the early morning hours. Of March 1, 2000, Katherine retrieved her butcher's knives, the same ones that had hung ominously above her bed for years. What followed was a scene so horrifying that seasoned police officers would later require psychological counseling. Katherine stabbed John Price at least 37 times. The wounds indicated that he tried to fight back and even managed to make it to the front door before collapsing. But the horror didn't end there. After killing him, Katherine skinned his body with such precision that his skin was removed in one full piece like a suit, including the face, scalp, ears, and even the genitals. She then hung the skin on a meat hook in the living room. Next, she decapitated him and cooked parts of his body. She prepared a macabre meal, baked meat with vegetables and gravy, serving portions of Price's flesh, alongside notes with the names of his children on them. Police found this gruesome dinner neatly laid out on the dining room table. Price's decapitated head was found in a pot on the stove, stewing with vegetables. Police believe Katherine had intended to serve it as part of the meal. She had also left a handwritten note accusing Price of raping her and her children, claims that were never substantiated. Police discovered the scene after Price failed to show up for work. His co-workers, knowing his fear, called the authorities. When officers arrived, they had to break down the door. Inside, they found Katherine passed out on the bed, having attempted to overdose on pills. She survived. The trial that followed shocked the nation. The evidence was overwhelming. Katherine pleaded not guilty, despite the mountain of forensic evidence and her own confessions. In October 2001, just before the trial began, she changed her plea to guilty, sparing the jury from seeing the horrific photos that had traumatized police. Justice O'Keefe, the judge presiding over the case, sentenced Katherine Knight to life in prison without the possibility of parole, the first woman in Australian history to receive such a sentence. That he called the crime appalling and said it was a case so horrific that it demands a severe and unrelenting punishment. Katherine is currently incarcerated at Silverwater Women's Correctional Center in New South Wales. Aftermath and legacy. To this day, the crime scene photos remain sealed from public view. Officers who investigated the case required therapy, and John Price's family still mourns a loss so brutal it defies understanding. Katherine Knight's story continues to fascinate and horrify true crime followers worldwide. Many have called her Australia's most dangerous woman, a killer whose methodical, ritualistic violence was more reminiscent of a horror movie than real life. Her story has been featured in documentaries, books, and podcasts, but no retelling can quite capture the unimaginable brutality of that night.